twilight hours, voices sing tales of hope and heartbreak, everything a rhythmic blend of dreams and schemes, whispered sweetly.
Afternoon or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So before we begin, I just want to welcome you all. And we have something that I have to speak out on behalf of the ISME. So first of all, welcome to the ISME Online Cafe. So each meeting will be hosted by different members of one of the ISME committees and special interest groups. The main purpose of our meeting is to provide a platform for music education practitioners and students across the globe to share, discuss, and reflect on their experiences and narratives while learning from and with one another is an atmosphere of safety, trust, and mutual support. So by participating in this meeting, we all agree to and take responsibility for the following. We aim at creating a welcoming and inclusive environment. We accept and honor diverse perspectives. We cultivate a sense of belonging and trust. We cultivate open and honest communication. We foster the health and well-being of all participants. We listen, respond, and disagree respectfully, and avoid judgmental statements towards others. So let's start and get inspired. Now, today, the panel is titled Responsible AI in Music Education. Generative AI has opened exciting new possibility for teaching and learning, fostering creativity, and even reshaping curricula. But with these innovations come pressing ethical questions, from bias in training data, etc., to issue of attribution and misconceptions among educators and students. So this discussion will situate these challenges within frameworks of equity, diversity, and inclusion, asking how we can harness AI responsibly to respect intellectual property, honor diverse musical cultures, and enrich rather than undermine music education. So our section will be a panel discussion with insight from three scholars, followed by Q&A. So where you can share your questions in the chat room, and I will introduce our panelists of today. So we have Dr. Johanna Traps, Junior Professor and Co-Director of the Institute of Music at the University of Education, Freiburg, Germany. And we also have Dr. Adam Patrick Bao, Associate Professor of Music Education and Canada Research Chair in Music Inclusion and Accessibility at Western University, Canada. And also Dr. Li Jiang, Associate Professor at Anglian Ruskin University's Cambridge School of Creative Industry. And also, he is also the convener of the Music Technology SIG. And today we also have Ran Jing also with us, who is also the convener of the Music Technology SIG. So let's welcome them, and I pass the time to our panelists.
Thank you so much, Michael. Now, I'm sharing my screen now. Can everyone see my screen? Yes? Okay, perfect. All right, thank you so much for joining the ISME Online Cafe on Responsible AI in Music Education. So before we start our panel discussions and presentations, I wanna ask all our audience this question. So first one is, what kind of AI have you used for music purposes? Feel free to to turn on your mic or type your answers in the chat box. Moises. Yes, Moises is a music AI for for splitting the music voices from the track, from MIDI, right? ChatGPT, asking music theory questions, that's absolutely helpful. Large language models, such as ChatGPT, Suno for songwriting. Yes, Suno, I see a lot of Suno answers. Suno has been so popular recently. Just a beginner music teaching and planning only. I guess it's for using large language models to write lesson plans. ChatGPT. AIVA, yes, this is also popular app for music AI. Google's AI Playground. I haven't tried that yet. I'll just explore what it is. Book,
Yeah.
audio.
I think I also see a lot of the names that I haven't really get in touch yet. But you know that every time I try to search AI music generator in Google, it gives me like very different results every time. But I guess there's also like many AI tools and large language models being coming up like in every single month. So yeah, we are trying to keep ourselves updated. But yeah, there's the things that we don't know as well.
And there was one specific AI composition app that I heard back in 2022, and no one is using it now. Okay, thank you for your answers. Now, next question is, if you have applied any AI in music teaching or learning, what are they and how do you use it? I think we just saw some answers just now, like using AI tools to learn music theory, music history, to plan for music teaching. Yeah, voices for transposing keys, slowing down, stem split. Yes. Music appreciation. Absolutely. GarageBand for primary school music production workshop. That's interesting. Anything else? Recently, I did a research of using SoundDraw for composition, and it's quite interesting app as well. All right, thank you so much for sharing chord progressions via GPT.
Yeah, I do the same as well. Asking the jazz, give me some suggestion on jazz chord progression. That sounds like something, and it give me a very good answer.
That's awesome. Use AI to enhance students' history. The AI to create songs based into interdisciplinary connections like writing poems, stories. Yes, using AI to generate lyrics and poems, very inspiring.
The interior and so on.
Okay, so thank you so much for sharing your experience and stories using AI to do music and teach music and learning music. Now, we have this prompt. So what do you mean by AI? A lot of us know what it is, but like as a start of our panel discussion, I'd like to invite Dr. Cheng to talk about the background and types of AI. So
yeah. Yeah, the reason why I ask this question is because every time we come up with some technology and it says that it comes with AI, so it's so powerful. But I guess the problem is what makes it so powerful. It's not because of the AI, but I guess the question is about what is the AI inside it and how do we use it and so on and so on. So I guess one of the important points that we have to make is we make sure that we understand what kind of AI it's being embedded in the technology that we are going to use, including something like like for example the GarageBand in the iPads or any kind of Apple products. Well, some of us will describe it as AI because it involves some sort of like automated process. But I guess if we talk about or compare with the generative AI that we have nowadays, I guess we may not consider it as AI. But actually, this is because we have, I mean, the term AI, I mean, the technology of AI actually comes before the term. In other words, we have been using a lot of technology that has a very similar characteristic with AI before any kind of like ChatGPT comes into the playground. So we generally categorize AI into 4 different types. Well, that based on 4 different levels. The first one is what we call the reactive machine. This is something like if you touch something, you give it some sort of reaction. If I click on the mouse click, it gives me the next line. So this is a very simple, like one-to-one directional kind of reaction. And we call it reactive machines. And that happens in our everyday life. The second one is what we call the limited memory. That is, it will give you an answer based on the analysis of a certain kind of data provided. For example, if you want to search how could I go from one direction to another location, and then the map will give you a suggested road. And because they have a database within the map that gives you the optimized road, and this is what we call the limited memory. And this happens in a lot of like digital audio workstation as well, because they have a lot of music libraries within the digital audio workstations. The third one is theory of mind. I guess this is something that we are currently facing now. That is the computer or the AI or the machine has the ability to attribute mental status, understand the others, have some sort of belief, no matter it's really some kind of belief from himself or generated from the database, intents and desires. I think this is something that we are having now, that you can talk with ChatGPT when you feel sad, for example, or you can ask a lot of questions. And in some cases, ChatGPT can answer you or guess what you actually want, even if you don't really give a very accurate question. The last one is something that I guess we have to be aware of, which is the self-awareness of the AI machines. That means the AI has a self-awareness to understand conditions, perceive human emotions, and even know what it should do by itself. It's not being commanded by the human beings. It has its own sort of thinking, the say and mind, and so on. We may not be there yet, but I guess this is something that you see a lot in those sci-fi movies. Although these kind of things may not, I mean, especially the last two one may not be in that case of the music education yet, but I guess we are stepping there. At least we have some sort of music generative AI that helps us to generate music as if it is a human composer. So in music education, I guess we usually use two sort of generative AI. The first one is a chatbot. That is, you can ask it a lot of questions, either it is in music or not in music. Just like you check with the ChatGPT, you get information from a question somewhere else. It could be music or it could be non-music. But one of the AI that is quite specific to us is what we call the AI music generators. That is the Sonos or any kind of AI that actually generate music. If you give you some text, well, if you search AI music generator on like Google, you can have a lot of results of this kind of websites that helps you do the job. You give some text like a moods or some boundary, such as what scale you use or what kind of the instrumentation. It will give you the music, a piece of music in like WAV format or other kind of audio format instead of like a paper format. So that is really making you the music for you. And this is something that is very specific to music education as well. So remember when the iPad comes out with the GarageBand, we are so enthusiastic with like what we can do with the children with the use of iPad to teach. Like you can produce music by dragging this to here, dragging the loop to there, and then okay, it comes up with a music. So it is now if you have the AI music generator, it is actually one step further that you could only provide the text that you want the music to be. If you feel sad, I want a slow music, I want it to be a piano with a flute and maybe some sort of chord progression, and it'll give you the music directly. So it further the automated process of music generation, which makes it even easier to make music. Right, next one. So before we step into the how we actually get used to it or what should we be aware of, I guess it's also we have to gain a lot of like knowledge of how this kind of AI is being trained. So like most of the text-based checkbox, the AI music generators are being trained by a large database of music, and this is what we call the music corpora. So the music corpora contains a lot of music samples, wherever you get it from. And the large language model will be built from this kind of music samples so that they have a kind of a pattern of how music should go if I have this kind of emotion, if I come up with this test, or what's after this musical looks, what should it be? You will get a lot of references from those music samples that's generated by the music corporates. So it comes with some good or some bad things, but let's talk about how we actually being used. I guess we have a lot of example already in the checkbox that student can create the music by inputting text, which is one way step further from like the loop-based music approach as provided in those digital audio workstations. So you give a very, very minimal input, like a few texts, then you just create the music for the students or for anyone who use this. So it got some good things and bad things, and let's get about some good things about this approach first. Well, music, it's usually regarded as something like a high art. That is, you get a lot of like resources in order to learn musical instruments to some certain levels, or learn the music theory in order to compose. So this actually places a lot of barriers for those who may not have the access to those resources or training. So the benefits of this kind of music generator is that ignore the barrier to music creation. That is, there's a lot more people who could make music even they have not learned any musical instruments or learned music theory. And that actually makes something like everyone could be able to make music. So it further democratizes the musical creativity. That is, everyone could enjoy the fun of making music and could be like using their creativity to make music. So as you may heard about these kind of things, I guess you could also think a lot of issues and concern, right, Grant? You muted. You muted.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Cheng, for your introduction. Now we are turning to the most important part of this online cafe. So issues and concerns, which are things a lot of people, especially musicians, music teachers. So our first topic would be AI as steamroller. I'm turning this to Dr. Tress.
Yeah, hello everyone. Good evening in my case. We're talking about concerns, and I think there's this antique steamroller picture I added to the slide a few minutes before this session, and I want to explain why I come up with this picture of a very ancient machine in a way. As we already heard, AI technology focuses heavily on language models, large language, small language, mid-range language models, and these text-based frameworks are kind of the underlying structure of most of the AI applications we use nowadays, even if we are not facing a chatbot interface like we do when we use ChatGPT. We heard a few seconds ago that there is this text-to-sound generation process. There's language in there even from the start of this generation process. So that means that music-specific application face kind of a critical challenge. They have to translate embodied nonverbal practices into language or audio data into language as well. And I think that as a result, language can be considered to act like a kind of gatekeeper in this whole production process or generation process. And I think AI systems require musical ideas to be articulated verbally. We see that when we use Suno AI, when we have to prompt something like jazz fusion song with polyrhythmic structure or something like that. And this kind of easy prompting logic is sidelining body-related skills like what do I need to know when I improvise? What do I need to know in terms of tactile knowledge about my instrument? How does it feel to be in time? How does it feel to be not in time? even when it comes to vibrating materials, if you think of the tactile dimension of playing an instrument or feeling sound in a way. And I think by prioritizing this text input logic, AI homogenizes outputs, and there is a threat, or I'm concerned that this could lead to flattening of diverse musical traditions into, yeah, you could say language-friendly patterns, and this risks erasing cultural nuances and privileging genres easily described in words. But I think what's interesting here is that this is nothing completely new. If we think about written music in traditional notation, Western classical music notation, versus oral tradition or oral, oral tradition and music that is given from one to another via oral practices. And I think there's a danger that these AI systems will act like, that's the reason for the picture, like a kind of a steamroller, leveling out musical diversity. And I put in one small quote from an Italian researcher, Alberto Romele, and he also points out this danger when he writes that AI technology could possibly lead to flattening individuals into their own sameness. That's, I think, really alarming metaphor that we see there. That's, I think, one concern that we see here, and it's kind of in the DNA of AI systems. I know that there are advanced systems that are not using language or language-based token generation models, but I think the main applications that we use these days, and I don't see nothing really new at the horizon that will be used in music classrooms tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. We have always have to have that in mind, that it's language that we are facing here, that it's based in a way, and it's the underlying structure of this whole process. Yeah, that's the concern I wanted to come up with today.
Yeah, I actually share the same thoughts with you as well, because what we have is we have a lot of like Western music, popular music, which is the basis of the like music corpus or music samples that we're using. And we use that samples to generate music. They all sounds like the Western, they all sounds like pop music. That is actually reinforcing the what we call the Western canon as well. It does not take consideration there's too much samples from like world music, Chinese music, Japanese music, or whatever. And it also does not take into the language as well, other than English. I mean, not as much as English. There's not, if you put in Chinese, it will give you a less inaccurate result than you put in English. So that kind of things is something that we have to be aware of, that if we rely on this kind of music generator to make music, it will further like monopolize the musical culture that we have. I mean, the music that we generated. And this is very dangerous because we are actually asking for the like diversity of the novel content of the music that we have, because the world has a lot more music than just Western or popular music. So I guess this is something that we have to be aware of as a teacher as well, because we have the responsibility to tell our students, even though they could use those generative AI to make music, it should be aware that, I mean, the students should be also aware that it is only represented a one kind of music that is represented within the musical corpus or the large language model. There's a lot more that that is lied outside the large language model as well.
Well, thank you so much for your both contributions about these two topics. Now let's move on to the next one, agency development with or without AI. I believe Dr. Bell and Dr. Tress have something to say about this topic. So we are turning to Dr. Bell first.
Sure. Thanks, Ran. Everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so I recently co-edited a special issue on AI music education with Ran, who's here, and also Mark Daly, who is the chief AI officer here at Western University in Canada. And this special issue will come out, within the next month or two. It's just in the production process. And so having Ran and Johannes here is nice because they can also speak to what they wrote about. And I'll just kind of mention a little bit about my work and also some of the people who weren't here. So if we could draw out a major theme in the issue, it's that music education researchers are really grappling with agency in using AI systems and models. And as the slide says, like with and without. And there's a lot of different perspectives. There's a lot of different ways to approach these issues. And so we can all speak to them. For my part, I was really focused on big tech. So meaning Google, Meta, Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft, and their role increasing presence in music education. So, what's the significance? What's the impact of having big tech play a function in music education, and how do they behave? So critiques that come up, for example, are things like energy use and water use, the disparity between the global north and south in terms of who benefits from the resources. Other authors have commented on similar issues, but from different perspectives. So one of the things I thought a lot about and have, throughout my time and thinking about music technologies is where is the music making happening, and how is that, contributing? How is a tool such as like Suno, for example, or someone mentioned like Google's Sandbox, like what does it mean to enter text into a system and produce a song for a learner? What's their experience, and how does that contribute to their music making experience? Does it give them new tools, new affordances to play with, or does it mean that they're just sort of really passive? These are the kinds of questions I've been thinking about and grappling with. And I thought maybe, Johannes and Ran, you could both share a little bit about your articles and the issues that you're discussing.
Sure. Maybe Dr. Chas can share before me.
Just go ahead, because I already had spoken quite some time, and you just did some words from your part, but just go ahead. It would be fine to hear your point.
Sure. So this is this is a paper I wrote for this ACT journal. So my part talks about agency from a sociology perspective. So agency in this context means having the ability and freedom to make your own choices and take actions when it comes to creating music. So in traditional music education, like without technology or without using AI, there are for like Western classical music education, there are often strict rules and high barriers, like needing a formal music training or knowing certain musical styles or terms, which can help or stop people, different type of people, students from feeling empowered or confident to make music. So in my article, I use two cases to explain that using AI technology in music creation, in music learning, can help break down these barriers. Similarly to Dr. Chas and Dr. Cheng's points before, AI lets people create music even they don't have traditional music backgrounds or extensive formal training. So it actually opens up new possibilities and allows more diverse voices and creative ideas to be heard. So for example, in my article, people without a background in specific music genre like R&B, for example, can still participate in creating R&B music through AI. But there is another important caution as well. For example, like while AI helps broaden access to music making, we shouldn't just accept everything AI produces without thinking critically. And there's a lot of space, a room for wrestling with your agency while using AI. So people using AI should always question how and why AI tools create what they do. And that specific AI tools have specific database that can benefit or constrain their agency while making music. So this awareness helps maintain human control and meaningful interaction with music. So like to make sure that AI doesn't overshadow personal creativity or individual expression. So for my part, I would just encourage music teachers, no matter if you want to use AI or not to teach music, it's important to help students gain confidence to make their own music decisions and actively engage in creative processes and generate and develop their agency through this process. So by integrating AI in this careful and reflective way, music education can become more inclusive and flexible and potentially be empowering for everyone. Now, Dr. Chess, would you like to share your perspective?
Yeah. Thank you so much for raising this, because I think there's this another dichotomy that comes up that we see a lot of, and we see a lot of them when we are talking about technology or music technology, I think. And you came up with something interesting, because I think we have to talk about what we want to see, or what we want to hear, or what we want to nurture in music classrooms from a broader perspective. Because what you were describing is talking about creativity, talking about composing and improvising with students, and focusing on this kind of for me, it's always a focus on processes rather than on products. And I think this is something that's really interesting when we're talking about AI, because if I'm just one mouse click away and 2 words or 3 words, and I have a song ready that I can just take away and, I don't know, feed it into some kind of story or something else, then I'm totally towards product over process. And if I'm interested in making a creative experience, or not starting a creative endeavor, then I'm focusing on the process. And this would be something that I'd like to feature when I'm talking about music classrooms, that I'm always on the process side and not so much on the product side. I wouldn't say that the product is not important at all. I wouldn't say that too, but I think the process is so much more important, and the experience of failure, the experience of not knowing, is this the right sound, or do I want something else here? And I think this struggle with myself, my aesthetic standards, with somebody else's aesthetic standards, that's what I like to see. And then it doesn't really matter if I use some kind of samples that are AI produced in this sense, and I use them for some composing action, or I use them as the starting point to make some kind of soundscape or something like that. No matter these arguments Adam brought up, I think they still matter. It does matter. Is it responsible to just play that that button and produce randomized sounds from an AI? Is it more responsible to go out and use the microphone and to work with what is already sounding around me? I think I would go for the latter. But I think these are the question is much bigger than talking about AI versus no AI. But yeah, that's something I'm always struggling with, that a lot of people, especially music teachers in music classrooms in Germany, and I know that this is not only the case in Germany, that this focus on process is not something that is done oftenly in music classrooms. There's a lot of focus on products, and I think that's another interesting tension that's lying there. But yeah, for me, when it comes up to agency and experience and developing some kind of sense of agency and musical agency, I have to go through that process, and it doesn't make sense to take a shortcut, because then I just get the product. And it's another problem. I think I wrote a little bit about that too in this article that is hopefully coming up. Thanks again for doing this work and coming up with this call. I think that's something that's really urgent right now. That there's also this kind of musical products as something that is cheap and that I just get for free in a way. That's interesting too, that we have this tech language working here that is proposing that music is something that is always available and you don't have to do anything for it, just give a little bit away of your data and that's it. So I think that's, I'm struggling with that part of agency when it comes to big tech companies and critical educational technology scholarship. That's something that's concerning, I think.
Well, thank you so much for bringing this up. I feel like the purposes versus process is a huge thing to debate about. And I saw Dr. Chen was like smiling just now. Do you want to add anything about this?
You mean me?
Yeah.
Yeah, just actually, I'm reading a text in the chat that from Chris. He's talking about yeah, there's a little process, but as an educator, we should be encouraging curiosity and not looking at acceptance of taking the first generation. I guess we have a lot of things to unpack about this kind of agency issues when we use the AI in music education. And we also just step into the very important question about the responsibility that we have to take either as an AI educator, as a music educator, a user of the AI, or maybe as a student as well. We all have a responsibility to foresee what could happen if we take the AI and use it in this way. And we have to be very careful and aware of this because it will get a lot of um, unperceivable or something that coming up that we don't want it to happen, such as the further monopolization of those musical cultures. So I guess that's something that we have been stepped into as well as what we are responsible for and how do we take responsibility about it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Now we are turning to the next topic, quality of creativity training.
Well, I guess it's something that we have always been talking about, but I guess it's actually echoing the issue of the agency that you three has been written about. That it's we got an agent that helps a student to create music or to learn. So in most of the cases, we now regarding this kind of AI assisted music generation as something like a co-creation between the AI and the music learners, music creators, or whatever you call it. So we've been talking about the process as well. I mean, the process has been more important than the product, which is something that is very important in the creativity training. So I guess one of the issue of those AI tools, it's I would say they're too easy or fun. That is from Adam and Simon as well. They're too easy and fun to make music with. I mean, these kind of things have already been happening when we have the iPad and the GarageBand because the several clicks you make the music. And now you only have to make a few texts and it makes the music even more easier. But does it mean that that kind of easier or more fun process would benefit the student from the learning point of view? So I guess there's a lot of things to unfold here, but at least the current use of AI in this such a fast track rate to make music does not really align with at least the music curriculum in around the world as well. I mean, there's a lot of things we have to learn before we could compose or make a music. So that kind of fast track may bypass a lot of this kind of meaningful learning in music curriculum as well. Although in some cases, I guess the music curriculum itself is also dynamic, which is also responding to the rise spread of the AI as well. But I guess this is something that we have to be careful of. Like the AI will make the music for you easily, but it doesn't mean that you have a quality kind of creativity training or music learning. So the central question here is what are the student learning, both musically and creativity, when they use the AI to make music, or when we, the music educator, try to use the AI to teach or integrate the AI into music teaching and learning as well.
Thank you so much. Now, next is access and equity.
Well, again, that's something that I guess the special issue we also talk about. But I guess I could also talk a little bit about here is there's a lot of like access and equality issue behind this kind of the use of AI. Like it may not be like everyone on the earth could access to ChatGPT because some of the country may block it. For example, there are also some image or music generators that you have to pay to make like better music, for example. Although what means better is another issue. But I guess this kind of paywall issue is also happening in a lot of digital tools that we are using nowadays, like the digital audio workstations. You pay for it, you get more music samples or instruments choices for you as well. So I guess this it's also something that we have to be aware in this kind of access to AI generator as well. So the language issue, I guess Johanna has talked about this as well because English is more used in the AI training, but I'm not going to repeat it here. But there's an issue of accuracy across this kind of different language. So Rand, do you want to continue with the last point?
Yes, so my last point is like generalization would perpetuate marginalization. So I recently read about this reinforcement learning technology in AI. So reinforcement learning is a model, like a framework that that's used to train AI for machine learning. And this mechanism is basically AI will be rewarded for into its training process, so it can make the best decision to get more rewards. So the problem of this process is what if they are rewarded? Sorry, what if they are rewarded wrong? Like for example, if this specific AI model is trained to prioritize one specific factor. So for example, if you want this AI model to rank the best ice cream, for example, and this AI model would just rank everything that contains chocolate the highest. And this output might be misleading to its users. So this reinforcement learning is something that I think is important to be pointed out because it can actually contain algorithmic bias. Another thing is inaccessibility in software design. So most cases, we don't really consider accessibility, which can like perpetuate people with disability because a lot of disabled people, they might require customized solutions or accommodations when they access to the internet. And because large language models are like mostly generalized with big data, it can ignore like marginalized needs about its users. I don't know if any one of you would want to add to this point about access and accessibility.
I was just going to respond to a comment from Steve T. I'll read it. Can one of the panelists speak to the tremendous energy resources required for generative AI, both to train the systems and to use them, and how its use by music educators and others continues an extractive exploitation of the global South? A significant concern I have is that my students struggle with eco-anxiety and serious mental health issues. We know that music can help with this, but when we turn to Gen AI, we are contributing to the systemic problem. I'd love some help thinking this through. So I did mention earlier in regards to the ACT AI special issues that some of these issues that you raise up are things that authors have mentioned, discussed. There's one article, for example, that focuses almost entirely on environmental impacts and the climate crisis or emergency, however you want to frame it. So yeah, I think it's certainly true that to both train and use a system working with a lot of data is taxing, right? It uses a lot of energy, uses a lot of water. Mark Daly's not here, but Ran and I brought this up with him, and he had an interesting point and pointed us to some literature that kind of pushes back against that. So I think like for a starting point, we need to really like engage with all the literature about this. But I'm kind of more aligned with you, Steve, in that I think an important question for anyone to ask is like, is this what I need to be using? And my personal opinion is that, Gen AI technology isn't as much as the issue as big tech is, and their sort of framing of how these things should work and, why we should use them. Like, in my article, I pick on Google because they're suggesting, well, here's how you should make music. And I'm like, well, I'd rather have the expertise of music educators on this or musicians in general. And so there are, people out there thinking about this differently. As one example, I'm giving a link to Dare, and they kind of talk about, first of all, thinking about, well, do I need AI for this? Is this a good use of the resource? And then also like how should we be using AI, and like how can we kind of approach things differently than a big tech approach? So for me, like that's kind of my take on that. Yeah, it's a tough one, but I'm kind of cynical about big tech and their intentions, and I'm concerned that what they think we should be doing is not necessarily good for us in a lot of ways, and that includes music education and the environment. But I would say that like the generative AI technologies themselves, like I think there are good ways to use them, and so it's not like this either or. Although the either or question may come up in certain instances when you're thinking like, hey, do I need AI for this? The same way you might consider like, do I need to drive a car to this place, right? Like that's an environmental decision.
Well, thank you for answering this comment in this question, Adam. Now let's turn to the next intellectual property.
All right, I guess this is me too, right? I don't have as much to say about this, but I did want to say that one of the critiques that came up in the special issue, and I think these are discussions that people are encountering on social media, is intellectual property. I'm going to put another link in the chat as an example. So the link is to The Atlantic, and it's talking about Library Genesis, which is like an archive of books that are copyrighted, and essentially Meta took that data to train something that they're working on. And so, for example, like I can find my books in there. So if you've written a book or some articles, you can look it up, and you might be there. And now you're part of the system, right? And so this is an issue that comes up because some people believe really strongly in intellectual property. Some people not so much. I find it kind of depends on culture in some cases. Nevertheless, this is an issue that I think people need to think about, because the data is so important to training the models. And right now there's a bunch of court cases happening in the US at least about this, to try to kind of determine if it's copyright infringement or not. And I'm not an expert on that, but I think this is something that we should be engaging with each other as colleagues and with the people that we facilitate in learning. So that's kind of all I had to say about that. Others might have additional contributions, and I welcome them.
Yeah, I do think that it's a really kind of a consensus around the courts in the world that who owns the copyright. But it's quite clear that it has a copyright issue that happening in the the AI generator as well. But it is a question that actually could not be catered from the current intellectual property framework of all the like ecosystem in the world. But I guess this happened in when a new piece of technology come out, there's a change of the IP laws to cater that as well. But currently, I guess the trend is that at least the AI generator, I mean the AI big tech companies, they don't own the copyright. But whether they are facilitating the infringement of copyright or other thing else, I guess that's something that we have to look into in the future. That is not something that we music educators have to like deal with, but we have to be aware of this, and we also have to make such an awareness to our students, those music learners as well, is that you are actually using a large language model that come from intellectual property of somebody else. So it doesn't mean that you actually make the whole song. You have that kind of issue of co-creation as well. So this is something that I think we have also to aware students as well.
Okay, thank you.
And I think I just want to add one aspect that I think it's interesting to talk not only about the perspective of the popular music industry in a way, because it's not the big tech companies, it's the big music companies that are fighting for their money or for somebody else's money. I don't know there. But if we talk about intellectual property, we could also take this into the music classroom, because that's a big theme for students as well. Is this really my song that I produced? And I kind of come back to this critique where Chris Kayari is in the chat talking about a certain type of process. I'm with you here that it's interesting to explore the different kinds of generated sounds. What does it mean to rephrase my prompt? Does it change the sound? I think there is creative space there, of course there is. But when it comes to intellectual property, we have this dimension as well when we are working with students in the classroom, that the question not only is where does the training data come from, but is the produced product or the generated product, is this my property? And I think I did some research recently in music classrooms, and a lot of students are really they really debated about that question a lot, and that's an interesting debate, I think, or a controversy, I would call it, because that's interesting to get in this conversation as well. When at which point is something my own property or intellectual property, and is it not also worth it to talk about collaborative creativity? If we talk about songwriting, there's no such thing as somebody's song. It's always some kind of collaboration, even intellectually. And I think these are all interesting aspects, not only legally in a way.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your discussions. Well, we were planning this online cafe session. A few days ago, someone just emailed me. I think Adam emailed me, saying, "Oh, check out this book." So it's Responsible AI Pedagogy for Music and Visual Arts Education by Laurie Valkava, a scholar who's well known in music education. I'm gonna read this for sure. I just want to share this resource to everyone. And this is the end of our presentation. So I'm now stop sharing the screen and then go through the messages everyone typed on the chat box. And meanwhile, we are having this Q&A sessions. So feel free to type your questions or comments or just turn on your mic to ask questions. But now I want to go through.
Well, I guess we can also let Chi-Hin to take care of this section as well, right? I mean the Q&A section.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. So if there's any questions, so feel free to type in the chat room, or you can unmute and speak out.
Yeah, I saw Petra Kern shared that along this previous topic, I would like to share an open access article I recently published on the ethical integration of AI in music therapy for those who are in special education. It explores clinical applications, core competencies, and key considerations for responsible use. And there's
Oh, we do
link.
have some perspective on music therapy as well. That's good.
This is awesome. And a few other questions were addressed already.
I mean, from those discussion that we have raised, feel free to like join in a discussion, and if you have any questions, concerns, or no, I don't agree with you, something like that, feel free to like unmute yourself and just try to talk with us as well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or maybe Chi-Hin, you also talked with like this topic just a few days ago in the radio as well, right?
Mhm. Now,
Yeah.
not really. I was doing a program which is about like music and AI, but not that much on that, not on your side, but more on like appreciation and how the possibility of AI in generating music. But I would like to know a little bit more, say in your side, since uh generating like music, no matter it's pop or classical or whatever genre. So, what kind of I mean the ownership of the AI. Do you have any insight to share with us? So sometimes, because I think some royalty companies are now discussing whether it should be uh, it should be owned by the AI company or whether it should be owned by the one who generated it. So is there anything you can share?
Well, I don't have any like a framework to share to you guys, but as a critical perspective, I think that the current framework of how we understand who make a music does not actually fit into this kind of music production. You know what? If we have like a piece of music, you got to know who make the music, who is the composer, who make the arrangement, or who write the lyrics, for example. But I guess these kind of things, echoing what Johanna has said, I guess we can no longer just talk about the product. He made the product, she made the product, or so on, so on. I guess it's about the process. Who used that word to make this? So this is a streamline of, okay, I use this to make this, and that will happen to this thing, something like that. I guess there's a change of framework that we need to have when we need to cater about the like copyright issues or intellectual property issues about who make the music or who own the copyright. So it's a critical perspective, but I don't have really a framework to provide. But I guess that's something that needs to be changed in terms of our ways of understanding copyright currently as well.
Right. Thank you so much. But I think the only or the difficulty is that it's hard to know the process. Usually
Yeah,
we only see the product.
yeah, it's just like we assess of student, we only ask for like give me the music. I mean, give me the music you
Yeah.
generated. But now
Hmm.
we gradually actually changing our minds as well because we are now accepting students writing essays with ChatGPT, and we ask them, what do you ask ChatGPT to assist you to write this essay? So I guess this kind of perspective also be catered at the music production as well. I mean, it's not totally about the commercial values of the thing, but it's also about how student learns, taking our like music educators' point of view. I guess the process should now be more important than the product than we have
Right.
before. Like we don't assess only the composition work, but we assess the process as well.
Yep. Thank you. So any other question from the floor? Dr. Chen?
Hi,
Yeah.
hi all. Um, I actually experienced some ChatGPT like generating music experience, and as academic, I have studied the creative process in the past 20 years since my PhD study, and I really have an issue about how students learn during the creative process, especially in this kind of AI conversation. So recently, I talked with a record producer in Hong Kong, and actually, he is a soundtrack producer, and how he used the AI is actually just like combining the human music and the AI music together. For example, he actually laid out the foundation structure of the music and to add some like AI voice or some AI samples or some AI generated music that can combine with the human music together. Then it becomes a new creation that we haven't listened before. Because in the past, we usually think AI will replace people, AI replace this kind of process of learning. And I actually still have some reservations on how to use in classroom teaching in music education for our kids. Because it's just a big thing when we use it in our classroom teaching, because our kids, they are very small, and like primary school kids or even secondary school kids, students. So when they can generate music easily, just typing a few prompts, I think it's important for them to learn how to use the AI carefully. But the thing is, as music educators, then what kind of things, what kind of possibility we can look into, like for creating. So that's why I talk with this record producer, the music producer. They are thinking more how to combine the human music and the AI music to create something that we cannot do in the past. So any views from the panels
Well, I guess
or other colleagues?
yeah, the producers did a great example of how it could be integrated already. I mean, if we at the very first level, we just ask a student to like make use of the text to music generator. That's a very simple first level that everyone could do it. You will make the music like the very same way. But in order to like integrate the AI into the music production process, I guess that's something that the producers have done is, for example, use the AI as something like an extended plugin to like generate the vocals. I mean, the vocal text-based vocal for
Yeah.
I guess that's something that the Yamaha Miku has been doing.
Yeah.
And I could also guess that there could be like the foundation of like generating chords for a certain piece by inputting some. I mean, sometimes it just no, we do the chord ourselves, but in some cases it's not really working. We just talk to the ChatGPT and help me to generate chord chart, something like that. That's something
Yes.
that Johannes has been suggesting as well. I mean, it could be embedded into like every single process of the music production. And I
Yes.
guess, yes, there needs to be a pedagogy about it, but I guess, yeah, there
Yeah.
should be someone who's doing it. Maybe you, maybe me, but yeah.
Yes, that's I'm interesting in creating a pedagogy, how to combine the human music and the AI music together, so that we are not losing the essence of the creative process, because it can be dangerous at some point if we just teach them the ChatGPT and generate music in 5 seconds, and then they didn't learn anything. It's just like listening to a new kinds of generated sounds. And to them, maybe first time is quite interesting. Second time, third time, fourth time, and then they will get tired. Because as you know, the ChatGPT, the large language model, they are like actually from sometimes from the same source. And they will keep repeating. The music is like very repetitive, less of varieties. At the same time, That is the part the human should do. Then we can ask the student how you can change the music into more into your style or your thinking. Then something that maybe we can explore in the future as music educator. But yeah, I agree that the intellectual property, the copyright issue, is still a big issue. Yeah, because I'm not sure whether we can get through the human ethics committee for this kind of research, because they will query when the music, the final product, actually who created it, and then ask, can I play on the public? Do I have to pay ChatGPT money, or actually it's the student's product? I'm not sure. We need a lawyer to tackle it.
I don't think the school can answer you this question, but I guess this is a question that nobody can answer at the current moment as well. Yeah.
Yeah. See whether the other academic things. Yeah. It's nice discussion. I really appreciate the work that the panel has done. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Jason. Yeah. So we have a question in the chat room. Yeah. From Li Lingxi. So as educators, our original intention is to help students break free from the limitation of limited knowledge, abilities, and established norms so that their creativity can flourish without constraints. But in this context, should we, as educators, encourage students to use AI in their creative process? Could AI-assisted creation actually limit students' creativity rather than enhance it?
Well, Rand, do you have something to put in? You seem to have.
Yes. My point is potentially it could. But based on my experience, those who there are a lot of students who are quite interested in using AI to make music, but without AI, they didn't even want to learn music. So for those students, using AI is actually an opportunity for them to learn music. That's my point. And there are also some other students who learn music, and they think, it's exactly like what you think. Like AI cannot express what they want. Sorry, and I think those are different two type of peoples and their like preferences about using AI to make music.
I guess there's a lot of thing to
Yeah.
there's a lot of thing to unfold from here. I mean, from this kind of questions. So it makes it so difficult to answer. I know that, yeah. But I guess it's not about yes and no. I guess we have to ask a lot of context about this kind of integration of technology. I mean, I would agree that the AI assisted creation should be part of the curriculum as well. But I guess as Jason has mentioned as well, we need a pedagogy about how to integrate this kind of technology into the music teaching and learning. And we also to ensure that this kind of integration it's benefiting the students from the creativity or musical point of view as well. So yeah, I don't have a very strict answer for this, but I guess we should encourage them to use it in a very careful way that we as a music educator should facilitate and facilitating them to learn music with AI in the correct or more responsible way.
I would just, because I was thinking about the whole past 15 minutes, I was thinking about, there is one publication, I'm not sure if I remember the author's name, but it's the title is Resisting AI. It's this idea of resisting completely, and it's kind of a punk attitude, if you want, in that way. And I was wondering if maybe it would be healthy for us as a community, if we think about music education, to have a little bit more courage in dealing with, I would call that the core values of what we do or what we'd like to see in music education as a whole. Because when I listened to Jason, I was thinking, okay, this producer, this Hong Kong producer you talked about, he kind of used AI. If I understood you right, he kind of used an AI produced generated song to lay out the structure of a composition of a track of a song. And there would be, I think that's interesting. That's an interesting strategy. But you could do this as well with other kinds of already composed songs or already produced songs. It's not really necessary to frame that as something that we have to deal in terms of dealing with AI in music education. And I think that's something that's interesting too. That and again, it resonates with what Adam was talking about the impact, the big tech companies, and this logic of marketing logic. I think so. I had a look at the mission statement of Suno, and it's, if you read that, I think I put this mission statement in this article as well. If you read the mission statement of Suno AI, it's kind of it's music education all over the place. We want to build a future where anyone can make great music, whether you are a shower singer or a charting artist. We break barriers between you and the song you dream of making. I think that's perfectly music educational language. And if we think of what do we want to achieve and what is important for us to nurture in classrooms, then I think it's not so important if we do that with or without AI, or we have to deal with other questions like the sustainability questions, which is a big one, I think, and it comes down to this decision: do I use the car for this distance, or do I take the bicycle or walk? And I think for us, it could be maybe some kind of relief to focus on these core values or the core questions. What is important for us as, and I don't think there is one answer. If I look at the country and the cultural backgrounds we are all coming from, there won't be one answer, but I think there are so much other questions that are really interesting, and I don't think that we have to abandon from this AI discourse, because it just, yeah, it fits in perfectly. But I think if we talk about songwriting or composing, or how do I teach musical structures, how do I teach I don't know, musical dramaturgy, how do I build up energy with music or with sounds, I think these are really interesting questions to take care of. And then it's not so important if there is AI in it or not, because it's the music what we talk about and not technology only. So yeah, but that's just some reflection on what I was thinking the last minutes.
Yeah, I guess you quoted the statement from the Sonar. That sounds really familiar, you know. It looks like the same as Adam has an article about that as well, about the statement made by the Apple company when they released the GarageBand. I guess they have a very similar statement about you can make music with a few fingertips, that kind of things. But I guess this kind of issue will come up like recursively. I mean, we got a tablet, iPad, and now we get the AI. We'll get something else in the future as well. But I guess this is something that we need to critically evaluate how this kind of technology could be integrated, or what is the dynamics between this kind of technology and music learning and the value of music we have nowadays from time to time. So that's something that, taking the very critical perspective, we need for every music teachers as well.
Right. So is there any more questions from the floor? If not, so probably we can end here. And once again, thank you, Johannes, Adam, Lee, and Ran for very insightful discussion. And it's so important that we are addressing the responsible AI in miseducation. That is very important, and it is the future. So before we end, I just want to let everyone know that we will have the ISME conference in Montreal in next year, July. So please stay in tune. And before we end, I hope you can fill in a survey that will help us to improve the experience of the online cafe. So I put it in the chat box, and you will also receive it in your email. So once again, thank you everyone for joining us, and I hope you have a good day. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.